For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back on the air, following up the New England Nationals up there in Epping, New Hampshire. I'm Joe Castello, and we got the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, going to join us just seconds from now. We're going to break down the race. We're going to recap all the fun we had up there with the folks of New England. And boy, were they great. Like each year we go there, and it's like I come back thinking, you know, those Red Sox fans, maybe they're not so bad. I absolutely loved it. We had a great time. Before we get into all of that, though, I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology, TotalSeal.com. Got a brand new episode of Hidden Horsepower. It is up. Dr. Mark Malberg from Digital Metrology. It is talking about surface finish and shape at the microscopic levels. This guy's a scientist. And if you want to get smarter, you're going to listen to this episode. It is great. But it is all an exercise in teaching you about ring seal, like why it's important and the potential, the unlocked potential of your engine, and why you should be using Total Seal. Go to the website, totalseal.com. Phillips-connect.com as well. I was happy to see some of our listeners out there who are over-the-road truckers scouring their trailers to see if they had Phillips Connect sensors, and they did, and tweeting them out. I thought it was great. Jim Epler was out there in New England. He had the technology trailer and a lot of good stuff. Go to Phillips-connect.com to find out more information about all the different sensors that they provide for the transportation industry. Phillips-connect.com. And of course, the Phillips Connect Top Fuel Dragster goes to the final round. Another big weekend for Justin Ashley. VP Racing Fuels, VP Lubricants, VP Fuel Additives on board with WFO Radio. And they've got a good thing going on as well. Hit their website, vpracingfuels.com. And it is great to see that they've got their lubricants brand really advancing. Camry Caruso able to throw down some really quick and fast ETs. Once again, just had a tough matchup with Greg Anderson in the first round. Those two have been clashing early on here in 2022. VP Racing Fuels. Go and sign up for their newsletter. Check out the website. And of course, FTI Performance Racing Transmissions and Torque Converters. When we're talking big money, bracket racing, .90 racing, Pro Mod, Top Dragster, Top Sportsman, monster trucks, mega trucks, any kind of extremely high horsepower vehicle with an automatic transmission. You're talking about FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. Paul Lee going to be back at the next race. Also, RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. We'll talk about Marvin a little bit later. 817-924-6821. On the side of Nitro Joe Morrison's Top Fuel Dragster this past weekend. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and their Dragster Adventure program. And of course, the folks at samtech.edu. But right now, let's go out to Parts Unknown, the voice of the NHRA, Mr. Alan Reinhart. He found the trains, people. Yeah, I don't know, Alan. There's a lot you can do with Photoshop these days. How do we know that that's really you at the trains?
Come on, Joe. For 5 years, I've been searching for these things. I found the trains.
He found the trains. It's time for a new goal, new mission. All right, we've spent a lot of time in the past about the trains. So, were they worth all the effort?
Oh, absolutely. Unbelievable. Not just the trains, but everything that's there. I mean, the two steam engines, obviously, are the big part of it. But, and this time, because I'm getting older and smarter, yes. I hired a guide to how I finally found them without getting lost in the woods or having 18 flat tires or doing any of the other stuff. And because he knows so much about it, he filled in some interesting stuff and said, hey, did you notice this? Did you see that? There's a lot more than just the two engines out there. There's probably 20 or 25 rail cars that are all lined up on a siding in the woods made of wood that had been sitting there for 90 years.
Wow.
So there's no rail cars left, but the wheels, the suspension, all of the heavy iron stuff, and they're all overgrown, and you just, like, walking through, you can kind of sense that they parked this stuff thinking, okay, we're going to be back soon, and then just never came back. And then there's also a trolley system that's about 0.6 of a mile long that I wouldn't have known about and would have never seen. That was another really cool thing. It was something that they did before the trains came in, that they were moving logs from one lake to another. And it was this, basically, this is one part of it that's just set up as a display, but it was a twin level. See
Wow.
the log on top, and you see the little truck things. And the cable ran around, and then it would go around the big wheel, and all the things would run back underneath, back to the other side. And they'd load logs on from one side and drag it over to the other, and then it would just pick them up in one lake and throw them in the next lake. But there's two big boilers that make steam,
Look at that.
and then steam engine.
Everybody's
Big
so happy
twin-
you found the trains, Alan.
Twin
Look at that.
cylinder, yeah,
Oh,
me too. And then it goes through this big gear reduction thing,
amazing.
and then the cable, and like I say, it's just really, really cool. And the fact that they brought the trains in on carts being pulled by ox is ridiculous. And that's part of why they're there, because there's no way to get them out of there, and they've been sitting there forever. But it was awesome. I mean, we 162 miles the round trip drive from when we left the asphalt to when we got back on the asphalt. 162 miles of logging trails. Saw more sheep and more moose than we did other cars and trucks. Never saw a car, but there saw 3 trucks, I think. 2 of them were game warden. Encountered a couple when we were coming out. We were the only 2 anywhere near the place when we were there. And as we were coming out, this couple pulled in that came from Sweden to go find these things. And so we chit-chatted with them for a couple of minutes. But that was like the only interaction we had with people the whole time we were there. It's 3.5 million acres of nothing. But I found the trains. It was awesome.
Tremendous. No, well, I'm happy you found the trains, and I like to consider myself, I appreciate history. My history buff, I don't know, but especially stuff like that, old industrial, the men who built America, the kind of like, how we got to where we are now moments. And I'm happy you found the trains. Now I don't have to, because you did. Right?
Every time I look at something like that, though, you go out and you look at laying the train tracks literally through the woods, 13-mile closed loop going back and forth. And I'm thinking, if somebody went out there today and said, okay, hey, I got an idea. In the first place, every engineer on the planet would tell them you can't do it.
Right.
They would do an environmental impact study and realize that you were going to kill 2 mosquitoes, so you couldn't do that.
Yep.
And it would take 20 years for them to decide, no, we can't do this. And back then, somebody said, we need a train. Okay, how do we get one in here? Put it on wheels and pull it with an ox. Okay. And they just did it because there wasn't anybody around to tell them they couldn't do it. And but anyway, I love stuff like that. I live in Boston a couple of years ago. They have one of the original pumping stations. Boston was the first city in North America that had water, like, come to your house. And they have one of the first commercial pumping stations. It's inside a building that's 3 stories tall. It's a couple of huge steam engines that ran pumps that took water out of the reservoir. And like, it was in use until 1960 something, but it's still there. It's a museum. It's free. But you walk in and I'm looking at, whatever it is, 36-inch round cast iron elbows that are 3 stories up, put in this whole, and at first, how did you make that in 1842?
Yep.
And second, how did you get it up there? I mean, you would need a very large crane. And they did this in the 1800s, and so anyway, I think stuff like that's fascinating, and I think the trains were awesome, and yeah, we had a race up there too, but who really cares? I found the
Yeah,
trains.
no, well, listen, you found the trains. Derek wants to know the trek in and out, how long, the whole thing.
It was about 8 hours complete round trip.
Okay.
From the guide, we went and had breakfast, and when we got finished with breakfast and hit the road, it was about 8 hours after that, almost exactly 8 hours. As a matter of fact, we got back 8 hours and 10 minutes or something like that.
Well, I commend you on your tenacity. Great job finding these trains. And we all got to enjoy it, both your failures and your successes. And excellent job. And we got a lot of people out there that are happy too. Bill, great job. Alan, everybody, we lived this one with you. It was almost as if we went right there along with you. And I'm going to claim that as well. My buddy Larry Boyd out there. What's up, Larry? Great stuff. And you mentioned the race, right? Like the history up there is very thick. Like on my way to the airport, there's the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides. Just amazing. If you haven't been to Boston, guys, I know New York gets all the love as the first city in the United States, but Boston is really great. And the fans, wow, like how thankful. What was your experience like, Alan? Mine was humbling. So many people like, thank you. Wow, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here again. I figured it would have worn off by now, right? We've been coming there 9 years or so. They'd gotten used to us coming there. No, a sellout on Saturday. I didn't hear us claim a sellout on Sunday, although I felt like there was just as many people there. And the thank yous were over the top, as if I had anything to do with it.
Well, I think one thing about people up in that region, and we get a lot of that in Minnesota as well, and I think it's, when you live that far off the beaten path, so to speak, and you live in a place that is, pretty harsh in the wintertime and everybody gets used to, you got to pitch in, you got to help your neighbors, you got to do this kind of thing and that kind of thing that you don't necessarily see all over the country. And I think they understand that it's a chore for us to get there, and that they appreciate that everybody put in the effort. And, I think we put on a great show for them. I'm like you. I feel like, don't thank me. I'm not the guy that did this.
Right.
But I think they're appreciative of the effort that we went through. And I think they also know, even the casual fans up there know that they were pretty close to losing their racetrack. And the fact that they still have their racetrack there, I think they're appreciative of that. And the fact that we came back, yeah, it's an experience up there every time we go. There's, I don't want to say, never's heard a discouraging word, but you sure don't hear many of them.
No, it was amazing. And I think we said it a couple of times, but hopefully those people, no matter what it takes, they will fight for that racetrack, because, once you lose your track, chances are it's gone forever, and you can't lose that place. There's too much history. It's great for what it is. We put on a heck of an event, and our racers love it, especially Matt Hagan. Wow. 4 funny car wins there. This guy, Hagan, and Dickie Venables and everybody on that team, they unloaded, and they just kind of took it to him all the way to the final round, got through Robert Height. For the first time this year, they were 0-3 against Robert, in spite of winning multiple races and having the points lead. They had lost 2 in the finals to Robert and 3 overall, and they got one back on this one. And it's just feeling like, not to count out Caps, he's the champ, of course, and Forrest and Cruz and everybody else. That's good. J.R. Todd showed some life. But Matt Hagan, Robert Height, feels like it's going to be just like a heavyweight fight down the stretch this season. And if neither of the two of them wins the championship, the way they're starting, it feels like it's going to go right down to the wire, these two guys. And this was just another example of it, with Hagan coming out on top.
Well, it's a long year, and, the countdown format certainly changes the game a little bit at the end of the season. But right now, those two are definitely putting some daylight between themselves and the rest of the group as far as points are concerned. And right now, they're the 2 best cars out there. You mentioned that Ron had, or that Hagan had lost 2 final rounds to Robert, and that's why they were so excited on the starting line. If you watch professional teams race, professional teams in anything play, there are certain games that just mean more. There are certain moments that just mean more. And those guys, like on the starting line, were going crazy like they'd won Indy or like they'd won the championship, simply because they beat Robert. And it's not an in-your-face thing in any way, shape, or form. There's such a high level of respect between those two teams that when one of them wins, especially a final round match, like, you've done something, right? I mean, it ain't like you beat me and Joe. You've done something if you beat Robert. And I think the Auto Club guys feel exactly the same way. When those two guys go head-to-head, and Robert won, and Robert's had the better of it this year, those guys all know that's a big round, and so, momentum is, it hasn't changed. The 2 best cars are still the 2 best cars, and we'll reload and go back. But, you mentioned it. Hagan unloaded fast. He came out with #1 qualifier. in the first session. Was fast all weekend long. Robert had kind of a weird weekend in qualifying, mechanical malfunction, then smoked the tires once. But then they came out in what was not necessarily the best session, ran a 388, and let everybody know that, hey, we're still here. We might not have had a good Friday, but we're still here. And then on Sunday, they got away with one in round one, and I think they would tell you the same thing. And after that, they got tough, and then just got beat by a better car in the final.
41 points, the lead for Hagan over Height. The lead over Caps, 163. The lead over Force, 290. So it has been a bit of a breakaway for Hagan, who is having just a really strong season. Tony wasn't there. He was, getting inducted into the Sprint Car Hall of Fame, and he's getting ready for a big race at Eldora. But the team was on rail.
I was texting him on Sunday, just keeping him apprised when his cars were coming up, because he just, stops what he's doing, clicks on his phone on NHRA.TV to pay attention and stuff. He told me he spent the whole day on the tractor. His top speed was 2.6 miles an hour.
There you go. Exactly. Just, back and forth. Hagan said he was actually jealous because that's his happy place as well. We got people out there listening. They're in the happy place.
There's something to be said for sitting in a tractor. Let me tell you, I have knocked down a whole lot of acres of hay over the years. And, when you're sitting up there and you got the speed control set and you're just mowing the lawn, as they say, and that's really what you're doing, going back and forth and following your pattern. Ain't nobody bothering you. Ain't nobody distracting you. You can turn the music on if you want, or you can not turn the music on if you want. And it's I don't know. It's a pretty comforting escape from time to time. I don't think I'd want to do it all day, every day, but there's times when go out and give me an 80-acre field of hay that needs to be mowed and get out of the way.
Yeah, I can't relate to any of that, Alan, but I can tell you what it's like to stand behind my Honda upright mower and push it up and down my lawn.
Almost the same thing.
That's what I can imagine. I can imagine. And it was many years ago that I let the WFO audience tell me which mower to get. That was a very, very difficult decision. The mower's still alive, guys. So I guess it was a pretty good decision. Mitchell says that Hagan is on fire. Yeah, they were great. And this was special. It was good to see J.R. Todd go to the semis, getting through Cruz Pedregon and Blake Alexander. There were some really good runs.
I love the DHL team, but they would tell you they didn't deserve. It's a classic case of getting way more than you paid for.
Yeah.
The only 3-second run they made all weekend was the run they lost in the semis.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, they didn't make a 3-second run in qualifying, not first round, not second round. And, I talked to Jono a little bit, and he's, just kind of like, we keep looking at it, and I guess we're just not seeing it. But they kept getting a little bit quicker and a little bit quicker. And I told him, I said, they give you enough runs, you're going to figure it out. And he goes, well, that's kind of what we figured. And their best run of their day was the run that they lost. But they still aren't quite performance-wise where they need to be. And again, I don't think I'm telling you anything they wouldn't tell you.
They always
if you
start
tell those
slow,
guys
though.
you're going to go make 5 runs and not run into 3s, they'd tell you were crazy. But they still just they're missing a little something somewhere.
They always kind of start slow, though. That's the team's rep. They'll tell you, even when they've had championship years, they kind of click it on, right around Western Swing, right around Indy, and then they go on a run. They get things right. So I'm not worried about them. But with the, the Coletta Lobster Fest for Scott, the tribute, so many people had come in to give them a little something to be involved in. That was a good thing. Like I talked to Bob Tasca, right? He has like every friend and family member that has ever been out there for that race. And it was so special. And they just had a really tough weekend. Everybody wants to win, but if you can't win, at least give the people who showed up to support you a little something. And the Coletta guys got a little something.
Yeah. New England does not like Bob nearly as much as Bob likes New England. I can tell you, he in the Yes Program presentation, he made mention that first racetrack he ever went down, his 92 Mustang, right lane, when he got his driver's license, and that's the first place he ever drove a car on a racetrack, and it's always been very special to him. It's never been very kind to him, so hopefully that'll turn around at some point. But yeah, the Colettas had some big players in the house. The president of Mac Tools was there on Saturday, and they had some bigs up there from DHL also, and the annual. The annual Lobster Fest, Eddie's get together is like I put on Twitter. I said the only bad thing about it is the reason that we started doing it, and but it's a wonderful evening to get together, and You know, they they built I don't think shrine's the right word, throne, casa, sitting room for Ron Tobler.
Yes.
I mean, you know, you almost had to like check in, sign in, wait in line to, you know, speak with Mr. Tobler if you had a moment. But just, you know, the camaraderie down there, and you know, everybody respects Connie for all that he's done over the years and all the stuff, and he's helped so many people that, you know, that nobody knows about. The number of times that Connie has gone in and helped somebody, sometimes like, you know, give them a part, sometimes, you know, buy them a tank of gas, sometimes a drum of nitro, sometimes send an airplane for something, expecting nothing. And he doesn't want everybody to know, and he doesn't do it so everybody go, wow, you know, hey, look at him, and he doesn't issue a press release every time he does something nice. But he has done so much over the years for so many people, and that's a wonderful evening that everybody can get together and come over and you know, just bench race and tell some stories. And the one thing I never saw Conrad all weekend long, so I am certainly going to make sure I look him up this weekend and go say hi. Spoke to Doug, you know, spoke to the hospitality guys. Always thank them profusely, because it is a long day and a lot of work for them that they do.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
This. But I didn't get to see Connie, so I'm gonna track him down first thing in Bristol and make sure he knows that I still appreciate it.
Well, exactly. Likewise, you know, we kind of had a busy weekend, the two of us, with just us being there, and we didn't have tons of cars, but it was still very busy nonetheless. I saw Connie, but I did not get to speak with him because he had a line, right? Like there's like going to see The Godfather, right? You got to wait in line, and it just wasn't possible at that time. But yeah, we'll catch up in Bristol, and we thank him, and you know, I'm sure somebody watches the show and knows that we are appreciative. But yeah, it was special. It's always special. The race is special. There's no suites, there's no super tower. It's just the people, and everyone was great. Let's talk Top Fuel. Mike Salinas, third win of the season through qualifying, track record. Capco sets up a first round matchup against Scott Farley in the Terry Totten machine, and they blow him off so much that Steve is unable to recover. He's really good at that too. And Farley, who had a 0.3 of a second reaction time, goes 4:06 for the win, and you know, burns it up so badly that they're unable to make it back for round two, which is just terrible. I feel bad for the Capco guys, but they're figuring something new out. So they've got quick and fast down, but they don't have like the repeatability part yet. Steve says they're trying something new, and I guess it bit them, unless there was a malfunction.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to either Bobby or Richard. I went over and talked to him after the 366 run in Friday night qualifying, which was a jaw dropper. But I didn't get a chance to talk to him after. I would be willing to wager that there was some kind of a malfunction or something that happened, because those guys are not going up there in round number one trying to set the track record again. They're going up there to go down the racetrack, and you know, you see what the track was taking. Would take, you know, mid-70s at that point of the day, after all the cleanup and all the pollen and everything that had been on the racetrack. And so it would really surprise me if they missed it that much, and that's why I think there must have been something. But you know, Steve he doesn't quite have the record yet, but he's in the same position that Tony Schumacher was all those years. Right, when everybody gets their first win against Tony Schumacher, and there's a list of like 11 people or something that got their first round win ever against Tony. And the reason for that is because Tony Schumacher had the fast car. Tony Schumacher was always the number one qualifier. And so if you qualify in the number 16 spot, then, you know, the Army team, you know, if they make a mistake, if there's a glitch, you just go down the racetrack, because Terry Totten pulls his car up there and he doesn't even pretend that he's trying to run 375.
No.
He's going to go down the racetrack. And if you let him, he'll go back and do it again. And he'll come back and do it again, just like he did in Denver a couple of years ago. But it's one of those deals. If Steve goes out and makes the run he makes, he wins the round. But if Steve doesn't, you can't let him get away with a mistake. And even though Farley was a little bit late hitting the gas, the car went down the racetrack, sort of, and wouldn't let Steve, you know, recover from the mistake. If they go up there and smoke the tires at the hit, like Steve did, then he's going to recover and he's going to win the round. But if a guy makes a mistake, don't let him get away with it. And that's basically what Terry's been doing with his car. Just, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to run it gently, try to be easy on parts, try not to tear a lot of stuff up. Unfortunately, in this particular case, they did have an engine malfunction and then, a little bit of a fire and tore some stuff up. But, the Capco boys made a mistake and they didn't get away with it. It's as simple as that. Robert made a mistake and did get away with it in round number 1 of Funny Cars. So it's just one of those things. And if you're going to be the number 1 qualifier week in and week out, or the number 2 qualifier, then you're going to draw those people that do not have a lot of round wins, do not have a lot of, and if you make a mistake, again, that's why, whatever it is, 7, 11, 12 something people got their first round win ever against Tony Schumacher, because he was always the number 1 qualifier, and whoever it was that snuck in the field didn't let him get away with the mistake.
Yeah, there was a lot of struggles out there this weekend. In fact, it was, I don't want to say attrition, but it was those who got to where they needed to be. They fought some adversity, but in the end, it was Mike Salinas and Justin Ashley. Justin got there through Sean Langdon and Scott Farley and Dan Mercier. Mike Salinas got there in a little different way through Nitro Joe Morrison, Leah Pruitt, and Austin Prock with the Silver Stallions. Austin took out Brittany, and yeah, we're pushing it, and it's going to happen. Austin got through Brittany on a whole shot. He had a 57, she had a 91, and was able to kind of derail the Brittany train for one race at very least, and it's her John Force Racing teammate. But in the end, Mike Salinas was, not going exactly straight down the racetrack, and he was very vocal. He told us in the media center that Antron Brown tested the car, and they're going to pour a new seat, and they're thinking ahead, right? Like he knows, like, and he looks at it like, we can be better. Look at us, we're winning races, and I'm not even driving the car as straight as I can. So watch out, we're going to be better. That's now 3 wins for Mike Salinas. Brittany and Salinas, both 3 wins on the season. And the points, only 30 between them. Brittany first, Salinas second. 99 back, you've got Steve. 107 back, you've got Justin. 243 back, you've got Austin Prock. So the gap is, 4th on up.
Yeah, and I don't know if you brought it up in the press room or not, but Mike was very emotional when we did the winner's circle stuff out on the racetrack about Jasmine's win. I mean, like tearing up about Jasmine's win, because she and the McPhillips team were in Reinhart or someplace.
Yeah, maybe Norwalk.
I think. Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, she won on the regional level, and he got that word, in between when he won his final and when he got to the stage out there on the racetrack. So he was pretty excited, pretty emotional about that, but a great day for the Salinas family. And yeah, he said the same thing to me when we were talking. He said, I know it's me. He said, we put Antron in the car. He drove the car. He said, I know it's me. So we have to figure out how to fix this. And if it's making adjustments to the car, if it's making him more comfortable, it's getting him. But whatever they need to do, they're going to do. And as you said, it'll just make them stronger.
And we did not discuss it in the media center. It was unfortunate, a little bit of a media blackout. We couldn't hear what you guys were talking about at that point. And he came in and the subject went down a different road, and I didn't get that information until afterwards. And I, of course, felt very upset and angry about that, just at myself for not knowing. But, it came out, and it's good that the fans got to know it. It's like father-daughter double. They're just not at the same track. But that is good news for Jasmine and for Mike and Monica, who graduated from Harvard that week as well. What a good week for the Salinas family. How crazy is that one, right? I was, paying tribute, but also busting her chops like, oh my gosh, now we got a Harvard grad. What are you going to do with that?
What a bunch of overachievers, huh?
Yeah.
Do they make you feel like you should get out and do something? I mean, it's like,
I have a podcast, Alan.
Yeah, it's like I need to read a book. I need to do something. I don't know exactly what, but I need to do something.
Yeah.
No, it's I just think it's great. Mike, the story of where he started, and the drive and determination for him to get where he is now, and the fact that all of the girls in his family, his wife and all of his daughters and all that, inherited that. We want to do something. We want to continue to improve. We want to, even though, certainly Monica at this point, does she have to go to college? No, but it's either a mountain that she wanted to climb, or something that she wanted to do at some point and just decided, I'm not giving up on this, I'm going after it, and I think it's great. But the whole family has the drive and determination. When we see when Gianna came off the motorcycle in Chicago, right? What's first thing? Mad.
Yep.
Get me another motorcycle. I want to do this again. Now. Tomorrow. I'm not giving up. I'm going after this. I am not quitting. And just the determination of that. Mike certainly had when he was younger, and has passed on to everybody in the family is pretty amazing.
Yeah, the determination is something that I can try to duplicate, right? Like, you just got to be determined. Hey,
Like,
Sammy.
I'm finding those trains.
That's right. Sammy wants to know if Mike said something about bringing 2 cars next time. Again, I couldn't hear the interview. What does that mean?
He did. Well, I think that means that that his daughter may be moving up next year.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's always been the plan. You know,
Yeah.
I've never heard a specific timetable, but the plan always was at some point for her to be in a second top fuel car.
Well, no, Jasmine's coming along. This race wins. You can see it. They can see the whole project going on. Any other thoughts? I don't want to come off on a negative note, but Antron Brown, wow, just having a tough deal. They tested out in Indy, and they think they're finding stuff, and then they run into a tough first round matchup and get bounced by Austin Prock in a marquee matchup, and they're not getting runs, and so they're not getting data, and it's a difficult spiral to be in. When you don't run well, you don't win rounds, you don't get shots at the track, and you don't get the opportunity to find your way out of the hole, like we see some others do. And the sport is so much better when Antron is running well.
Well, Antron's in, I think, exactly the same position that Bob Task is in. They have everything they need. They have the people, they have the parts, they have the budget, they have everything they need to go out and be successful. And they're not afraid to go out on Monday and spend money and do what they need to do to go test it and make sure that they get it right. But they just haven't quite been able to translate that yet to race day. I think both teams are strong enough and solid enough that they're gonna at some point turn it around and get better. But just sometimes you struggle through stuff. You look at what Leah's team has done the first part of the year. They also have had a good car most of the time. They've had some self-inflicted wounds. They've been, just wrong place, wrong time sometimes, and you fight through that until it starts turning around. It's like bracket racing, and we've talked about this before. You do everything right and get your teeth kicked in, and then you change nothing. You just keep doing it, but all of a sudden, the numbers start falling your way. The 2000th the stripe is your favor instead of his favor, and you're not doing anything different. You're doing the same thing. You're just achieving a better result. And I think that those guys have both been around long enough, and especially Antron. His team, his crew, they've been around long enough. They're not going to get down on each other. They're not going to start sniping and pointing fingers. They're just going to fight their way through it. And when they do get through it, man, they're going to be tough.
Exactly. Play a little blackjack for yourself, and you'll see exactly what this racing thing is all about. Like, hey, 20, 21. Ugh. Like there are just hands where I should win that one and I lost, and man, I should lose this one and I win, and there's no real rhyme or reason. And I think it has to do with the way math works in the cosmos. And the person who can explain that one to me, I will book you for an hour to share it on the show. Derek wants to know about Salinas and Pro Mod. I've asked this question. Maybe you've got some more insight. Remember, Salinas was going to run them both and everything, and that got kicked to the wayside. He's focusing on top fuel, and I think that's a smart deal.
The Pro Mod car will be out again before the end of the year. Probably Indy, maybe before that, but the Pro Mod car will be out again before the end of the year. One of the things that Mike told me that was really kind of a, I don't want to say drain on his time, but that's what it is, was his association with Pep Boys. His business model and the way he's always done it in any of his businesses is if you have a relationship with him, you're going to get more than you paid for. You're going to get 110%. You're going to get, you are going to be taken care of. And when he put together the deal with Pep Boys, and it wasn't just, write me a check and we'll put your name on the car. It was, I want to come do autograph sessions. If you have a store opening, tell me. I want to be there. I want to go to, your district manager meetings. And he has been doing a lot of that stuff. Some of it at the racetrack, some of it away from the racetrack, because that's just him. If you have a relationship with him, he is going to make sure that you get more than your money's worth. And that has taken enough time that, he said at a couple of races this year, he simply would not have had time to do what he wanted to do for Pep Boys if he'd had the Pro Mod car there. And the Pro Mod car is fun, and the Pep Boys thing is business. And in this particular case, business came before fun. But he told me point blank, it will be out again at the end of the year. He said probably Indy, maybe before then, but probably Indy.
Excellent stuff. Scott says, thank you for your positive energy and excitement you bring to all the NHRA fans. Ricky says there, there's only one winner in every class, and isn't that the truth? All right, we got a couple questions about pro stock, and that's what people want to know about. Like, okay, Erica Enders wins for the fourth time this year over Aaron Stanfield, gets the final round win. Erica has now a couple of wins here at New England, and Erica's going to be on tomorrow, guys. We're going to have Erica on the show tomorrow, and it'll be, I think, 11 a.m., 11:15 a.m. We're putting it together, but it's going to be before noon with Erica. And I was like, hey, we could just do it next week. She canceled an appointment, and she is blocking out some time for us tomorrow. So Erica Enders will be joining us. So be ready. Download the WFO app, enable push notifications, and be ready for E. Not quite evil E this weekend, or mean E, but she's still on a mission. And we're seeing a season of dominance right now with Erica Enders. Off the top of my head, I don't know what her best career year is for race wins. Like, how many race wins is the most race wins Erica has had in a single season? I don't know that number off the top of my head. Maybe you do. I know you got access to the computer. You don't have to look at it now. We can talk about that. But this could probably be the year that she breaks it, because the start that she has had and the way that whole team is going, they are making a statement.
Yeah, and she's been very upfront about it. She said, the way that last year ended just made them all mad, and they're going to come back and make sure that doesn't happen again. And so they spent extra time, extra effort, extra in the off season, making more power, making sure their motors were as best as they could be, making sure that they had plenty of stuff for the fleet of cars that they provide horsepower to, both the ones that run out of their trailers and the ones that they just lease engines to. And they've also spent a lot of time testing and, minimize mistakes. We've got to go out and minimize mistakes. And, Richard, I think, would tell you that they didn't do a very good job in qualifying. They were okay, but they didn't run where they thought they should be. And they did learn enough during that when they came out Sunday morning, it was, hang on, because they certainly looked like they had the best car all day.
Yes. And some people want to know, like, I'm just looking at the round one matchups. Greg gets around Camry. He outran her and he left first. That tough matchup between Derek Kramer and Matt Hartford. Derek Kramer, he had a really good weekend. Qualified fourth, went down the racetrack. But everybody wants to know, Dallas Glenn gets around Alan Brzezinski, loses to the Quadra, Fernando Quadra Jr. How about the Quadra versus Quadra matchup for the truck? What we didn't know is that round two is not quite a double or nothing, but if you can take out the number one qualifier, he'll upgrade to alligator floor mats. What was what it was. And so Quadro is obviously highly motivated by deal sweeteners. He gets through Dallas Glenn, but then gets bounced by Aaron Stanfield. Stanfield goes to the final round. But everybody wants to know about what happened with that timing system deal. You were in the tower. I walked up into the middle of it. To me, I'm just happy the way it was handled, right? Like, whoa, right away, noticed right away, figured it out right away, alerted the teams right away, and got ahead of what could have been a difficult situation.
Well, what happened, and I don't know, certainly there's, pictures of it someplace on the web. If you're an NHRA.TV person, you can go back and look at it again. When we came back for what was the semifinal round of Pro Stock is when we explained it to the fans, because, that's why Mason is here instead of Kyle. And what happened was very simple. The timing system that we use has infrared transceivers on the outside of the wall that shoots a beam out hits the reflector, comes back. So it transmits and receives transceiver. The blocks in the middle of the racetrack hold reflectors. The finish line block had fallen over or been blown over by a parachute.
Right. Well, okay. Derek remember Kramer got loose and threw out the chute a little bit early. The puff of air from that chute, we went back and found it on .tv.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. But in essence, like, this is the finish line block, and yes, it was Liz.
Right.
So when it moved out of the way, New England sensors, and most of the tracks they are so deadly accurate at the finish line, because obviously that's the most important place on the racetrack. When the block moved out of the way, the sensors now were seeing each other. So it didn't set off the alarm. if there was something blocking on some of the racetracks, just because of the crown of the racetrack, the sensors are pointed a little bit like this because the blocks are a little high. So when the block moves, it sets off an alarm, and we all go, oh, hold up, we got something going on. Oh, look, it's the block. Let's fix it. Let's get on with our lives. But because the sensors were so deadly accurate that they were seeing each other, it didn't set the alarm off. So when the first pair of cars went through, and that was Mason and Kyle, it showed the win, and it was like a thou or less than a thou. But Mason's speed was 220 miles an hour. And it's like, okay, that's weird. But everything added up except the speed, and occasionally, you get an erroneous speed. Okay. And they ran the next pair. And the next pair, the trailing car, went 227 miles an hour. And it's like, okay, stop. Something ain't right here. And we have the capability in the tower of seeing anything out of the TV truck without putting it on the big screen. And so that's what they did. And they put up the finish line shot, and it clearly showed the cars coming across that Mason was out in front by about a fender. And Austin Hayward is the electronics guy for NHRA, the guy that oversees all that stuff now. And he came over, and he's watching the video, and they're watching it frame, and he said, the block fell over. I mean, spotted it that fast. And if you go back and look, the finish line is about this wide when it's painted on, actually it's about this wide, where it's painted on the racetrack. And the block sits on the leading edge of the finish line. That's the way the track's laid out, that's the way the lines are painted. When the block fell over, it was laying back in the middle of that stripe instead of on the front edge of it, which is one telltale sign. The other telltale sign is that the finish line block has two reflectors in it as a redundancy. So instead of just having one big reflector in it, it's got two of them. And if you look at it, it almost looks like a snowman because they kind of overlap each other. The block was laying on side, the snowman was sideways, and it was absolutely picture perfect clear that that's what happened. So the first car that gets there stops both clocks. It comes up with a margin of victory in milliseconds because that's what the system's designed to do. The first car that got there, all of the information was correct. But for the second car that got there, the speed was going to be wrong simply because the second car started the speed clock, but the first car who was out in front stopped it. So the time to cross that last 66 feet was a little bit shorter. In one case, 10 miles an hour. In the other case, I guess 17 miles an hour, because that's what we ended up with, a 220 mile an hour speed, 227 mile an hour speed. But it is absolute science that the car with the high speed got there second because he started his speed clock second. The pictures showed exactly that. NHRA immediately, Ned Walliser, vice president, went down to the pits immediately, explained to Kyle, here's the deal. Explained to Mason, here's the deal. They both understood. And so, that race was overturned, but that's exactly what happened. And it was just even Bob Brockmeyer said, well, that's a new one. And, he's been around for how many years? Normally, if something catches a block, the block goes tumbling down the racetrack. And even in a situation where the beams are precisely aimed, you see the block roll down the racetrack.
Right.
And it's like, okay, guys, time out. But the fact that the block literally just started here and went clunk, and they moved that far. And that's what happened. So
I talked to Pete Smallwood, Mason's crew chief, and I was like, what did Mason say about it? And he goes, he got on there and he said, I never saw him. He didn't question, like, maybe I won, but he's like, I never saw him there. And the video evidence was pretty clear. And then with Erica and Greg, the video evidence was also pretty clear. Mm-hmm. And there was discussion about the video evidence and the numbers and what we should rely on. And, I think it's very situational, right? Like you rely on all the data you've got and you combine it all to make the best decision you can. And I think they absolutely got it correct in an indisputable way. On the two different runs, the right driver advanced. Just unfortunate for Kyle, like, oh man, I won. But he probably knew, like if we talk to Kyle, who's been down the racetrack thousands of times and is a bracket racer and knows a couple of thou at the finish line stripe, when his win light came on, he was probably confused too. Happy at it, but when you're a foot and a half behind, I think. Yeah. So I just never spoke with him. I'll catch up with him in Bristol. But in the end, Mason goes red to Erica, 2 thou. They both rattle the tire. She blows the back window out and but gets away with it because he's red. Goes to the final round where she takes on Aaron and wins. and they drove it back. And so now Erica Enders is 108 ahead of Aaron Stanfield, 187 ahead of Kyle Koretsky, 226 ahead of Dallas Glenn, 240 ahead of Mason McGahey. And that just shows you what's going on in Pro Stock. It's been a year of dominance by Erica, who will be on WFO tomorrow.
Yeah, she's got a chip on her shoulder, and the whole team does. And they're, singularly focused on the mission to crush the life out of everybody. And so far, so good.
Yeah, and to explain, we'll talk to her tomorrow, but the way last year ended, right? Like the way I remember last year ending was, some shenanigans and this and that, but their perspective was that Greg was stumbling down the stretch, like should have had that thing locked up and left the door open and was vulnerable to be gotten, and they missed getting him. And that's what's annoying to them, is that, man, they feel like they could have plucked that one from him when he was trying to give it away down the stretch. But, it is what it is, whatever. They're motivated this year, and they will continue to pursue it. So we'll see.
Well, his car says number 1 on the side of it, and that Erica's going to gnaw on that every time she looks at it until she gets the number 1 back on her car, which, again, that's their singular focus. Not that everybody isn't going out there trying to win the championship, but I think everybody who's ever played a sport or anybody who's ever competed, there's sometimes when you just go, that's it, I've had it. And you just crank your game up.
Well, the NBA, right? That's when people take over games. But we saw Jimmy Butler do it for the Heat a couple of times, like one guy, Jordan. Michael Jordan has done it a bunch of times. Remember the Reggie Miller Spike Lee game where Spike Lee got Reggie Miller angry and Reggie Miller, well, yeah, watch this, and went off so much that they made multiple documentaries about it. In drag racing, it's kind of hard for a player to go off, right? Except I think we might be seeing Erica Enders and the elite team do that this year, like take over and go off.
I think, it's happened a few times over the years. There have been, Tony Schumacher's had years like that. Larry Dixon had years like that. Selzy had a couple of them. There's just when you just are putting out a dominant performance and it seems like you can't be touched. And the beauty of that is that it earns you oftentimes things that you don't necessarily deserve, like a red light against Mason McGahey. Mason isn't going to go red if he's racing Joe Castello, but he's racing Erica. And Erica's good, Erica's fast, so you go press. And as it turned out, as you said, they both squared the tire up. But if it's not Erica in the other lane, Mason doesn't red light. I firmly believe that. Then that's when you start getting some of those gift rounds, and it just makes you even tougher to beat because the legend grows. All those years when John Forrest was so dominant, the number of times that he got gifted rounds because the guy would come up in the other lane or the girl would come up in the other lane and go, oh my God, what are we going to do to beat Forrest? We're going to have to pull out all this. We're going to have to do. Let's just do something completely crazy. And then they both smoke the tires. And John gets away with it. John won a race in Phoenix one time. I'll never forget this. I wish I could remember the year, but I won't forget the event. He won the race in Phoenix, where the quickest run in the other lane was like 8.5 seconds, all day long. Through 4 rounds, nobody in the other lane ever made a full run against him, and I think he only made 2 full runs out of the 4. But the point being, when you are being that dominant, you take people out of their comfort zone trying to beat you. And that also helps you because occasionally you'll win a round where you were vulnerable simply because you shorted out the person in the other lane. It's an intimidation win. Simple as that.
Yeah. Michael Heiner is out there. He says he's thank you for making your bed. Number 1, we just blamed you for the block problem, Michael. Like I just revealed that you watched on NHRA.tv that it was your parachute that tipped over the block, but that's okay. But he's also given compliments to Ingersoll on Erica's car and all of that. Jim Park says that like when Steve Johnson won Indy and didn't get to celebrate it, Pete Smallwood had said, we talked about it. We're talking about Mason's crew chief, how different that was, though, because that one was like, oh, you take the trophy from this person and you give it to this person, and there's real no worry. Whereas in this situation, you got the McGahey team, they're going to start tearing down. They think they've lost. You got Koretsky. They think they're going on. There had to be an instant intervention there to keep it fair for the next round. And so that's why it was good that they got to the bottom of it so rapidly.
Yeah, and the Steve Johnson thing was a little bit different also, because while the video definitely showed that Steve was out in front, it was very difficult to argue with the numbers that the CompuLink system was telling you. So what are you going to believe? And there have certainly been issues in the past where it's been proven way beyond a shadow of a doubt that what the video showed wasn't what actually happened. It happened in Sonoma a couple of years ago with Matt Smith and somebody. And when they did the old deep dive in it, realized that the cameras they're using have what they call a revolving shutter. So it captures the top of the screen before it captures the bottom of the screen. And Google leaning train, okay? And that's a classic revolving shutter where something's moving fast enough that if the picture starts capturing here, and then as it goes down, the stuff at the bottom has moved, and so the whole picture ends up skewed this way. And at that particular case, in the final round at Indy, there wasn't, I don't know how you overturn that. If you look at it until the end of time, everybody's going to come back and go, well, look at my picture from the finish line. But once they did the deep dive into it and realized the front wheel on the motorcycle doesn't always break the beam because the front wheel's only this wide, we need to do something to fix that. So they fixed that problem. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been another one since. And the fix for the problem, if you'll notice now on the Pro Stock motorcycles, there is an insert in the front wheel. So the front wheel sees a solid disc now instead of just 3 inches of tire and wheel and then air gap back to the hub. So they identified a problem. They fixed a problem. They made sure that the correct winner was credited with the win. And you keep rocking on down the road.
Heiner says, my parachute, sorry. You're good.
You didn't pull it.
Yeah, exactly. You're good. They had a good weekend, though. Hats off to those guys. Like, unloaded quick and made good runs, and then eventually, got beat. He had to push in the clutch down the racetrack. But watch out for that team. It'll be interesting to see. The remainder of the winners from New England, Super Stock, Eric Merrifield and the Bounding Beagle. Love that truck because of the wheel stands, right?
Cool.
It is very cool. Tim Stickles with the Malibu Blues stock eliminator. Rob Hyatt owned both cars in the Super Comp final.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Like, both were his cars.
He actually sent me a note that says that ever happened before. And I don't know specifically. I mean, I know that there have been times before when team cars raced in the final. The Richardson brothers raced each other in the final. They were, but I don't know, somebody owning both cars. But that's a pretty good day at the office.
Yeah, if it has happened, I'm guessing Bertozzi's involved. Just saying, right? just a flyer on the deal. Ted Leahy and Super Gas, the Warren Johnson car. Like the Nostalgia Pro Stocks are a big deal. That's a Super Gas car, but it's a former Warren Johnson Don Ness car. It's still Warren Johnson out, WJ'd out, and he goes on and wins. And I don't know, that was cool. Like, as a Warren Johnson fan, seeing that thing go down the racetrack, turning on win lights. Yeah, it's running 990s, but still, it's awesome for WJ. One of his cars goes out there. Super Street was John Olson, Fast Freddy, and Top Sportsman. Brendan Beauregard in Pro Stock Sled with a whole shot victory over the number one qualifier and the guy who was dominating all weekend long. But really, though, I'm thinking about Fast Freddy and everybody out there that was racing for things other than themselves.
Well, Fred was driving force behind doing some fundraising and do some things for Will Monroe, who got injured in a top-end accident in Cecil County a couple of weeks back. And that's just, the Division I guys pulling together. But he's had a tough couple of weeks. I mean, blew the manifold off of his 57 in Cecil County in the final, and then blew the motor up in his dragster. And I think, his girlfriend Carla is the only reason that they were even here. We ain't quitting, we ain't giving up. Dave Moan suggested that he should be the Never Rest award recipient for the weekend, and he was. And then they went out and closed the deal and thing. I couldn't believe that was his first win. I know he's won some divisional stuff, but I just was really surprised when I looked. And I know he's been close a couple of times, but no, it made it a pretty special weekend for them.
Yes, definitely. Final thoughts? Anything that stuck out in your mind this weekend at the New England Nationals, other than how great all the folks were? I know we had a good time. It was fun. We dodged a little weather at moments, but we got it all in. We had those big sellouts. Everybody was so happy and appreciative. I can't wait to go back. Bristol is next weekend, not this coming weekend, next weekend. We'll talk about that next week. But was there anything else that you wanted to comment on?
No, just, it was a great event. We, had to deal with some weather on Friday, and, Saturday morning had to come in and dry the track. Sunday morning just had to come in and clean the track, get all the pollen off of it. But
pollen!
Great effort by everybody at the racetrack and by the safety safari, making it all happen. And overall, I think it was a pretty good race. And I said as much when I was on the stage down, in the middle of the racetrack at the end of the day. I said, how many of you guys are here for the first time, first ever NHRA experience? And I had a couple of dozen probably. And I said, if you didn't think this was cool, don't come back.
Yeah, you told them to leave immediately. Leave immediately. Wow.
But
a little harsh.
We had comfortable weather for the fans, right? I mean, what was the high temperature on Sunday? 78?
Yeah, moderate.
And so we had comfortable weather for the fans. We had some jaw-dropping upsets. We had some, hold your breath moments. We had some spectacular racing. And just everything that NHRA has to offer. We saw some of it on that Sunday. And, I'd love for every race to be like that. But I guess if every race was epic, then by definition, they'd all be average. So it's nice when you have an event like that, when the fans come out and I think absolutely got their money's worth. I'm sorry if your guy didn't win, or I'm sorry if your girl didn't win, but throughout the course of the day, the number of times that, wow, that was awesome, or whoa, didn't see that coming, or holy smokes, look at that. And I love events like that when, things run fairly smoothly from a time basis. We didn't spend a whole lot of time cleaning up the racetrack, not a whole lot of downtime. We just kind of clicked along through the day, but there was plenty of stuff to entertain everybody. At least I think so. I sure enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. Now we're going to Bristol, where those are, I love Bristol because those fans are loud. They're cheering, they're going crazy. Pro Stock is back. They're going to be super happy about that. It's going to be exciting. Heiner says a lot of great knowledgeable fans at New England Dragway. Really enjoyed talking with them. Me too. A lot of very knowledgeable fans. And again, all I can say is they made me feel like drag racing, NHRA drag racing coming there was appreciated. And I could tell you there was a huge economic impact for that area. Restaurants and everywhere, gas station, stores. Like, there were a lot of people crammed into that little property, which was great.
You mentioned restaurants. I'd mentioned this at the racetrack. I'm just saying to get here because I think it's funny. Checking into the hotel, and the guy behind the counter obviously has no idea. I'm just Joe, hotel guy to him, or hotel guest. And I said, I understand there's pretty good seafood around here. And he goes, oh my God, seafood capital. The ocean's right there, and Portsmouth is right here, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And I said, okay. I said, because I was checking my phone. I said, there's not a Red Lobster within like 100 miles of here.
Oh my gosh.
And the guy's like,
man,
Red Lobster. Oh my God. No, wait a minute. And I'm like, dude, take a breath. It's a joke.
Yeah.
I got to be me. Lebanon Valley this weekend. You mentioned we're going to Bristol next weekend. Lebanon Valley this weekend, if you're in the Division I area. Big regional event. We're going to have alcohol cars there, and should be fun. Lebanon Valley's a nice, intimate track. Nice close and personal, and it's not a huge facility, so you don't have to walk 27 miles to go out in the pits and see the cars and do this stuff. But I've been coming here now 4 or 5 years, and great racetrack. And if they give us good weather, which I think we're going to have, then we're going to put on a heck of a show for you.
Well, get out there, folks. If you're up in that part of the country, go see Reinhart. He's the Division I announcer, along with Division 7 and 6 and 4 and
not 4.
No, not 4.
Not 4.
Not 4.
But maybe.
But go see him.
I will. I need to try to do a 4, because this year I've done Division 1 and 2 and 7 already. I'm going to do 6 next week, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whenever it is. And I need a 4. I don't have a 4. I'm going to do Division 3. I'm going to go up to Chicago and do that one.
Well, there you go. Well, speaking of which, we want to make that one a big one. That's like August 5th, 6th, and 7th, something like that. We want, WFO special side project. We're trying to save a lot of drag strips now. That's our thing that we do, is save drag strips and skating rinks and whatever else needs to be saved. They're going to have a Lucas Oil Series event at Route 66 Raceway, and it's tell me if I'm kind of characterizing it correctly or incorrectly here, but this is the test run to gauge the interest in drag racing in the area. And somebody is going to be looking at this and saying, yeah, people showed up, or people didn't show up, to determine whether or not we continue to go there or come back or something. And so people should know.
I can't say that I've seen that from any official source, but I feel the same way. I feel like, they're going, okay, let's open the doors and see. And I think, if the event is a flop, then they may just go, eh. But I think that if the event is solid, hopefully that will encourage them to utilize the racetrack. Love to go back there for a national event, but even if that doesn't happen, utilize the racetrack. I mean, there is a holy smokes car culture up in that part of the world. There are some stupid fast street cars and some stuff going on up there. I mean, can you imagine if the No Prep Kings rolled in there, how many people would come into that place, and how many local people would probably bring their cars out to be a part of it? I think that, it's just, I hate to see a facility like that not being utilized to its fullest. And I firmly believe that, if you open the gates on that and put the right person in charge of the place, that, you can't lose. I really believe that, that in that market, in that area, with the number of people out there that are just, car crazy, the number of like hot rod street cars you've got in that part of the world, and the other stuff, the Chicago history is huge. I don't see how the drag strip could fail. Put the right guy in charge of running it, and
well, you're the guy, not to run it necessarily, but you're the guy to do research when you go there, right? Like, you got to find out. These are things that I don't understand. And, we're talking a little behind the scenes stuff on the air here, but like, I don't know who runs it, who owns it, what they think, why it's closed, why they don't understand this already. The track is as nice as ZMAX, like the building and the architecture. Their big issue was they built it too big. It was part of the big NASCAR expansion in the late 1990s, and they were just building everything. And they built this massive, what does it hold, like 45,000 or something? So we could have the New England crowd that we had this past weekend, double it, put it in Chicago, and people would call it a failure, right? Because, oh, look, man, there's, only 2/3 of the seats are full, or maybe even not even that. So this thing is special. It's spectacular. It's in a hotbed of racing. All those things that you just said, the right person just needs to understand that. And that's why I'm making a big deal here on the show. If you're a fan watching on WFO, go to the calendar, block that weekend, and show up, not to see Alan Reinhart, to save a drag strip in the Midwest, man. You need to do this. Bring a sign, save the track, bring back the Nationals, get aggressive with it, because that's what attracts attention. And I know this from my exploits down here in South Florida with Moroso Motorsports Park. They told me flat out, when people make noise, they pay attention. Nobody shows up, they're going to bulldoze the track, and it's all going to be your fault, not Alan's, yours. There you go, Alan.
What do you mean not to see Alan? If you want to come out to see me, come see me.
Go to save the track. Alan Reinhart is a fringe benefit. There you go. All right, Alan.
You can still come just to see me. As long as you're there, you're there. I don't care why.
That's true. That is a good point. Bring signs, people. Bring signs. All right, Alan. Great job as usual. You've accomplished, things are really trending up for you. You've accomplished the trains. You've had a good couple of weeks. You did not go to Red Lobster while in New England. It's all looking up. Good luck at Lebanon Valley. Hope you don't see any ghosts.
The ghost of Lebanon Valley. I don't know if the ghost is going to make an appearance this weekend or not. I'll have to wait and see.
We shall see. We shall see. All right, AR. Good job.
Take care. Thanks, Joe.
There he goes. The voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. Yeah, Todd is out there. Yes, bring back 66. But here's the deal, guys. Nobody does anything just because they think it's a nice thing. There has to be interest. There has to be a reason. And in the case with property owners and live event promoters, it's because people are going to come see it and pay money and spend money. That's what it is. That's the reason. We're talking a track that is just outside Chicago. It's about an hour and 10 minutes away from Chicago, downtown Chicago. There's a lot of people there. Okay, like if Chicago is the center of the clock, right, it would be at like 7 o'clock on Chicago. And it's not that bad. Think about Moroso is an hour from me, hour and 10 minutes away from me. They're an hour and 10 minutes away from Chicago. This thing could be wildly successful, and it has been successful in the past. It's just, there are things that you have to do. Like you have to promote, you got to connect, with your community. You got to go out and get the local racers involved. And for whatever reason, that didn't happen. I'm not blaming. There's no blame. But do we want to save a facility that's already built? How many millions of dollars would it take to build that facility right now? It would take a lot. Could they make money? Yeah, they can. There's things that can be done. And so if you're in that part of the country, go to NHRA.com, look at that weekend, go to the race and make a big fuss and bring some friends and make it the best attended divisional race that we've ever seen. And then we'll see where we stack up, because we could use that track. And it's a nice track. And the food around there, the Italian beef and the Chicago style hot dogs. Oh my gosh. Go over there to Portillo's, stuff myself, me and Jason Logan. We always do that. We go to Portillo's and I get an Italian beef sandwich and also a Chicago style dog and also a shake. And next thing you know, I'm super fat. That's usually where it starts downhill on a season. It's where I start getting huge. Just starting to happen right now. In fact, starting to happen after New England. All right, get your comments in the comment section, guys. Final comments in the comment section. I'm going to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. Here's one in the WFO store, Miami Hollywood Speedway retro gear. Yeah, Miami Hollywood Speedway, my home track. The tree is out there on the starting line. T-shirts and mugs and stuff. Miami Hollywood Speedway retro gear in the WFO store. You can get there on WFOradio.com. I think that's pretty cool. And shout out to the Patreons. The Patreons, big part of WFO. They co-host the Ignition Show, right? Like if you're a Patreon and you want to watch the Ignition Show record session, you get a link and you can watch and participate. And every once in a while, someone gets to be on. And every once in a while, someone will make a funny comment. I'll put them on more and more. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of funny. And so they're part of the ever-growing WFO community. You can join it as well. And I'll let you inside on a little prank I played on one of the Patreons. His name is Troy, and he does our Big Money Bracket Racing Minute. He is a diehard fan of Big Money Bracket Racing. And so we were talking about Hagan, and we were talking about Hagan's, the brand that he got, right? And this guy, Troy, who's a good guy and he loves big money bracket racing, and he's built himself a bracket car. He said, I don't know. I felt like that was kind of juvenile, or he said something juvenile. Like he says, he take a shot at Hagan. So I went to Hagan and I got him to record this.
Hey, Troy, I heard what you said. I'll see you in Vegas. I'm coming after you.
Yeah. And so I played that for Troy last night. Now Troy is afraid because he thinks Hagan is coming after him at our WFO meetup for Patreons, the one that's going to happen in Indy. But the one in Vegas is the one Troy's coming to. And that's it. We're building this community of VIP listeners. If you want to join, you can. If you don't want to join, you don't have to. You're still part of our community. You're just, there's like a secret lab you don't get to go into, but it's no big deal. But I thought it was cool of Hagan to make the video. That now Troy thinks he's going to be beaten up. Marvin Rodak, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, now on board with the Nitro Joe Morrison Top Fuel team. Right under the roll cage, the Rodax sticker. Next time Joe Morrison is on track, look for the sticker. But you don't have to wait to see the sticker to get some coffee. 817-924-6821. Marvin Rodak, drag racer, coffee roaster, hot sauce maker. Check him out. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. FrankHawley.com, where you can drive a dragster. Why not? Why wouldn't you set up a race for you and your friends, you and your colleagues, you and your sales team, you and your best clients? Schmooze them with FrankHawley.com. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. This is more of a serious kind of sponsor, right? Like your career, your life. What are you going to do? You're going to become a machinist. Samtech can get you started. Motorsport EFI tuning. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Go to samtech.edu and really call Brian Massengill. Like when you figure out, like, man, I need to know more. Let me speak with Brian and tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. I was hanging out with Jim Epler on the starting line. I did not get to go see the technology trailer. Reinhart and I were pretty busy this past weekend, consumed, if you will, with drag racing, but I will in Bristol. Phillips-Connect.com, and Justin Ashley goes to the final round. TotalSeal.com, got a new podcast with Dr. Mark Malberg. I highly recommend everybody listens to it because it's high-level information about surface finish. And there are a couple of different quotes that we could pull from it. But once upon a time, surface finish was about roughness. And now it's about creating an optimal finish for what we're trying to accomplish. And in this case, holding oil and sealing a cylinder. And Dr. Malberg really dropped some really good information about, for instance, like the finish inside of a cylinder is the most researched surface finish on Earth, if you think about it. And he provided data. Go check that one out. TotalSeal.com. You can get it right there. VPRacingFuels.com. Had Freddie on a couple of weeks ago, but also VP Lubricants and Fuel Additives. They're on board with WFO Radio. And then FTI Performance Racing Transmissions. I communicated with Paul Lee. He'll be back in Bristol and Norwalk coming up real soon. Big Money Bracket Racing, .90 Racing. They have their own transmission fluid, and the proof is in the pudding, as in the results. You look at all the cars that win, many of them, dare I say most of them, have FTI Performance transmissions and torque converters decals. You can go to WFOradio.com, hit the store. That's where you get t-shirts and coffee mugs and sweatshirts, and check out our new designs, including the Miami Hollywood Speedway stuff. But we're adding new designs all the time. Let's see what people have to say. Let's see what people have to say. AJ is out there. Great show today, Joe. Thank you very much. Heiner, my airport buddy. Need to see a video of Troy seeing Hagan in Vegas. Well, yeah. And so what I'm doing for the Patreons, right, since we're doing these meetups, I've got to create a special experience for these people, right? So we're all going to get together and we're going to see each other face to face, right? And so what we're going to do at the Vegas meetup is we're all going to form. Anybody see the movie 3 O'Clock High with Jerry Mitchell and Buddy Revell? Well, playing the role of Buddy Revell is going to be Matt Hagan. And playing the role of Jerry Mitchell will be our friend Troy. And of course, we'll take a video. And we'll probably lose Troy as a Patreon at that point. But we'll definitely gain others. So it'll be a wash. Let's see what Jeff had. Poor Troy. There's a photo out there with Jim Yates and Camry. That's super cool. The age gap of the Master and the Grasshopper. Love it. What are you attacking poor Jim Yates about his age for? Yates is coming on the show. I already talked to him about it. And I've been like, yeah, look at this. Poor Troy. Next time we talk pro stock, Jim Yates is going to come on the show. We'll get it dialed in. Yeah, poor Troy. I love how Hagan, I was kind of coaching him in acting. This is not really going to beat up Troy as far as we know, because, I don't think he heard Troy say what he said until I've alerted him that Troy said something, and then in which case he might go back and listen, and then you never know. But who knows? Gary says, thanks to Joe and Alan. Close to me, like 80 miles to Chicagoland Speedway. Yeah, Ricky. Why don't you bring out that Thunderbird, bud? Bring it out. 80 miles is nothing to save a racetrack. I drove 80 miles just to go to a commissioner meeting to save a racetrack. I didn't even get any drag racing. Tim Barrett, Linda, and I love Alan. Oh, look at Tim. They love Alan. A lot of people love Alan. There's 2 more. Blake wants me to get Amanda Busick on the show. I think I could arrange that. I think I could arrange Amanda to be on the program at some point. We've had some classic Amanda moments on this show in the past. Jim Parks, D3 top dragster alone will be worth the price of admission. Yes, it is. No, there's very quick and fast hot rods out there. They got a lot of quick and fast hot rods. Yes, bring back Route 66. Any other ones? He was old when I started racing 27 years ago, said Jim Yates. R.I.P. Troy. Yeah, no, I know. Yates is old. That's why. He wants in on the fight to watch poor Troy but pummeled into the ground. So I told Hagan, I was like, look, there's a listener. His name is Troy, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, all right. And he took it serious, and he did a really good job with it. I found it to be cool that he wanted to have fun. Hagan always tells us, though, he listens to WFO. Like when he's not on, he's on the tractor, and he listens to WFO, like David Eaton is on the tractor. So let's watch Matt Hagan one more time.
Hey, Troy, I heard what you said. I'll see you in Vegas. I'm coming after you.
Yeah, the snarl at the end does it. This is how I treat my Patreons, guys. Join them. Hagan's going to be on. I don't know exactly when. We're going to save Hagan for next week. Are we going to get Hagan this week? I don't know. Maybe we got Erica tomorrow. That's all I know. We got Erica at 11:15 a.m. We're going to kind of come on at an odd time. Maybe I'll come on early. But be ready and share the show. Remember, download the WFO mobile app. This is all. I could put the links up in the chat section. But really, just go to WFOradio.com and download the mobile app. And from the mobile app, you can access the store. You can access YouTube. We've stalled out on YouTube, guys. We were gaining subscribers, and we've stalled out. We need more YouTube subscribers, guys. More. Just reminding myself of something I forgot to do today, which was to post the YouTube link in the WFO group. Oops. I'm having a tough go of it, guys. I don't want to make excuses or anything, but the pollen out there in New England was just very intense. It was a very intense experience, and I still have yet to recover. Rich, take care, Joe. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate you. Lonnie, I love it. What do you mean? I like the fact that Hagan is the kind of guy who likes to mix things up and have a little fun with it. And I was so happy that I waited to get the video. Pollen was stupid there. Yeah, no, it was the worst pollen experience I've ever had in my entire life. That tells you a lot. What's up with the spammer? This spammer has been on for a while, and someone suggested that comments are only allowed with subscribers, and I clicked that setting, and it doesn't work. So we got to just deal with the spammer, guys. I don't know what to say. We have spam every once in a while. It's not good spam. I want to know who the person is that sees that spam and is like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I don't know. And I'm blocking the user too. I'm blocking them and it's not working. So whatever. All right, guys. And Blake's like, Joe, do you have a cold? No, man. Blake, I don't have a cold, Blake. It's the pollen, Blake. It's the pollen. All right, guys. That's it. WFO. Erica, tomorrow. See ya.